Bonsoir tout le monde et bienvenue au premier débat de cette course à la chefferie du NPD. Je m'appelle Alexandre Boulris, je suis le député de Rosemont de la Petite Patrie ici à Montréal, mais également leader parlementaire du caucus du NPD. Tout d'abord, nous voulons reconnaître que nous sommes ici en territoire autochtone non cédé. Nous voulons également reconnaître que la nation Kanien'kehá:ka est la gardienne des terres et des eaux sur l'île sur laquelle nous nous trouvons ici ce soir. Historiquement, Montréal a toujours été un lieu d'échange et de rassemblement pour plusieurs Premières Nations au Québec. Et ce soir, c'est dans cet esprit-là, dans l'esprit de respect des liens passés et présents, que nous soulignons cette cohabitation et ces relations historiques entre les Premières Nations et l'ensemble des Montréalais et des Montréalaises. À un moment où les libéraux de Mark Carney gouvernent de plus en plus comme des conservateurs, le moment est venu, le temps est venu pour les progressistes et les néo-démocrates de discuter ensemble et de voir comment nous pouvons renforcer notre mouvement et notre parti, mais également rejoindre tous ceux et celles qui partagent nos valeurs de justice sociale, d'un environnement sain et surtout d'une économie qui ne laisse personne derrière et qui inclut tout le monde. Sur ce, je laisse la parole à Carl Bélanger, l'animateur de ce premier débat ce soir.
Bonsoir tout le monde, bonsoir à tous ceux et celles qui se joignent à nous de la maison pour ce premier débat donc de la course à la direction du NPD. Premier débat qui se tient ici à Montréal, donc en direct, et nous allons avoir 90 minutes pour débattre des enjeux. Tonight, the 5 official candidates will discuss the issues that matters to Canadians, that matters to NDP members, that matters to progressives. And Canadians will have a chance to hear from them, some of us for the first time. The teams were developed with submissions from people across the country, from NDP members who submitted questions, who are interested in this race. And they are as follows. They've been selected, 5 of them. Affordability and the cost of living, Indigenous justice and reconciliation, winning and organizing in Quebec, role of labor and workers, and the NDP's path forward. Alors, les candidats ont reçu ces thèmes à l'avance. Ils ont eu le temps de se préparer, mais ils n'ont pas reçu les questions précises. On n'aura pas partagé cette information. Je tiens donc à remercier les membres du NPD qui ont soumis des questions dans le cadre de cette course à la direction et pour ce débat de ce soir. Et donc, sans plus tarder, c'est avec plaisir que j'accueille sur le plateau les 5 candidats à la direction. Rob Ashton, Tanille Johnston, Avi Lewis, Heather McPherson et Tony McQuail. Ce soir, le débat sera un débat bilingue. Nous avons comme objectif d'obtenir 60 de français et 40 d'anglais. Pour les gens qui sont à la maison, les téléspectateurs, les téléspectatrices, la traduction simultanée sera disponible. Une traduction simultanée qui peut aussi être utilisée par certains des candidats s'ils en sentent le besoin. Je tiens donc à remercier l'équipe d'interprètes ce soir qui vont faire un travail pour nous aider à comprendre ce qui va se passer. Before we get started, I want to explain the format for the debate. There are rules that we need to follow. Each candidate will get 45 seconds for opening remarks. There are 5 debate teams. I've named them earlier. 1 question per team, and each contestant will have the opportunity to answer. Then there will be a debate, an open debate for 8 minutes. There are 2 rounds of rapid-fire questions, which I'm going to ask to get to know people a little better. And then we have another 2 teams at the end to conclude this debate, and closing remarks, 45 seconds again for each contestant. Les candidats ont reçu l'instruction de répondre aux questions dans la langue dans laquelle elle sera posée. Alors, les déclarations d'ouverture et de clôture devront avoir lieu en français, et les candidats et candidates qui décident de passer outre cette directive, je devrai les interrompre malheureusement. Ça sera la même chose lorsque des questions seront posées dans les thèmes. Pour le débat ouvert, il est demandé préférablement aux candidats et candidates de répondre dans la langue de la question, mais le débat est ouvert, ça sera à leur discrétion. L'ordre des déclarations d'ouverture, les positions sur le plateau, les déclarations de clôture ont été déterminées par tirage au sort. Nous commençons donc avec Heather McPherson pour la déclaration d'ouverture.
Merci beaucoup. Les gens au Canada vivent des moments très difficiles. Beaucoup de familles font tout ce qu'il faut, mais elles ont encore de la misère. Elle mérite un parti qui se tient debout pour elle. C'est ça le NPD. Et ça doit redevenir le NPD. Je me présente parce qu'on a besoin d'un chef qui unit les gens, qui ouvre les portes et qui fait de place pour tout le monde. Un chef avec l'expérience pour répartir le parti, travailler avec la base et la soutenir.
Merci, Mme McPherson. C'est maintenant au tour de M. Avi Lewis.
Vous travaillez beaucoup trop fort et vous n'arrivez quand même pas à vous en sortir. Vous savez pourquoi. Une poignée de grosses compagnies augmentent le prix de tout et se remplissent leurs poches. Face à cette crise, on ne peut pas refaire la même vieille recette prudente du NPD. Il faut une politique assumée, une taxe sur la richesse, des options publiques, un New Deal vert canadien. Ce sont des solutions pragmatiques et populaires, des solutions pour répondre à l'urgence quotidienne, rallier notre base, bâtir un mouvement et gagner.
Merci, M. Lewis. C'est au tour maintenant de M. Tony McQuail.
Je suis père, grand-père et agriculture biologique. Je milite pour l'environnement et les justices sociales et politiques. Je me présente sur le thème des 4 R, représentation, régénération, redistribution et réconception. Le représentant vient en première. Le système majoritaire uninominal nuit à la participation. Le Canada a besoin de la représentation proportionnelle pour bâtir un gouvernement qui travaille pour le peuple et pour l'environnement.
Merci, M. McQuail. C'est maintenant au tour de M. Rob Ashton.
Je suis Rob Ashton. J'ai passé ma vie sur les docks à Vancouver. J'ai défendu les travailleurs, battu bas la dignité et de bons salaires. Aujourd'hui, les richesses se remplissent les poches, pendant que le reste du monde paye le prix. Je connais et je comprends les défis du vrai monde. Le NPD a été fondé pour donner une voix aux travailleurs. C'est ça que je veux ramener. Si tu veux un NPD qui gagne et qui se bat, je suis ton gars.
Merci, M. Ashton. Et maintenant au tour de Mme Tanille Johnston.
Yo, Wixas. Bonsoir. Je suis Tanille Johnston, une femme liquestau, autochtone de Campbell River, en Colombie-Britannique. Je je suis mère, travailleuse sociale et conseiller municipal. Et maintenant, je me présente pour devenir le chef de MPD. On a besoin d'un chef qui connaît la difficulté des Canadiennes et Canadiennes. Et je vais apprendre le français parce que c'est très important.
Merci, Mme Johnston. Alors voilà, la glace est brisée, le débat est lancé. Je vais en profiter pour rappeler les règles à tout le monde. Pour les questions, chaque candidate aura 45 secondes pour répondre à cette question. Puis nous passerons au débat ouvert pour 8 minutes. The first theme is affordability and the cost of living. It will be in English. And here's the questions. We know that there is a cost of living crisis. Millions of Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. The price of essentials, the price of food, the price of many goods continue to rise. Housing comes to mind, of course. Income inequality is at record levels. Yet in the last election, the NDP came forward with many proposals, ideas like investments in non-market housing, cap on grocery prices, but instead they chose Mark Carney. So which policy proposal are you putting forward to address the cost of living crisis? And I'm going to start with Mr. Ashton.
Thank you, my friend. You see, we built this country, but we're getting squeezed while billionaires are cashing in. We, when I get voted in as leader of the party, we're going to put caps on the prices of groceries, on the internet that we all use, and on our cell phone bills. You see, my good jobs promise guarantees a good job for everybody that wants one. But most importantly, we're going to give more power to the working class, and we're going to take whatever power from the CEOs that we can take from them, because all the power belongs to workers.
Merci, Monsieur Ashton. It's now the turn of Madame Tanille Johnston.
Thank you. We need to approach this at all levels from every way we can, including a guaranteed livable basic income, right to a national housing that's public, whether it's co-op or other public models. We need to invest in housing that's accessible. We need to help Canada feed Canadians. We need to break down interprovincial trade barriers for food producers and be able to feed ourselves through our own agricultural means. We have such an amazing opportunity with so many farmers, and Tony will probably speak to this later, where we have more than enough folks doing the great work to feed our country, but we have to enable them to do it. It was great to see other barriers broken down between provinces, but they left food behind. We need our food.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, your turn.
The cost of living is not an issue. It's an emergency, and it's an emergency caused by market failure. What else to call it when Galen Weston is worth $18 billion and Canadians are skipping meals to feed their kids? The market is failing to provide essentials at a price that people can afford. And in an emergency, we expect the government to step in. That means a public option for each of these necessities. Price caps, sure, to stabilize the price of groceries, but then public grocery stores to lower them. A public provider for phones and internet, a public housing developer and construction companies to build 1 million non-market homes. Public is not a dirty word. It's how we guarantee Canadians a dignified life.
Thank you. Ms. McPherson.
The cost of living right now for Canadians is skyrocketing, and people in Canada are struggling right now. And what we can do, the things that we could do right now to help those Canadians include things like putting in place my plan for housing. And that starts with declaring a national housing emergency so that we can mobilize the funds that we need to build homes so people have somewhere to live, so young people have a shot at owning a home, so folks that are living on the streets in our communities across this country get the supportive housing they require, housing like co-ops, housing like housing that we know Canadians across this country deeply, deeply need. That's the one thing I'd be working on.
Thank you. Mr. McQuail.
My friends, I first ran in 1980. I've been listening to speeches and great ideas like the ones we've just heard for over 45 years. But unless we start fixing our relationship with the first-past-the-post electoral system, none of this will come to pass. It certainly hasn't in the last 45 years in a complete, comprehensive, and well-organized way, because we sometimes get stuff in through a minority government situation. We have to deal with first past the post, and that's why my first R is representation so that actually we figure out how to get a hold of the levers of power and then bring in proportional representation so that there is some hope that the great ideas we have and are starting to put forward don't get disappeared with another phony majority government that isn't ours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McQuail. It's now time to open the debate to all contestants. We have 8 minutes, and we've heard a lot about problems, but I'd like to hear more about concrete solution. Ms. McPherson.
So I have a jobs plan for young people. We know right now there is a crisis for employment for young people across this country, and we could put a plan in place. We could put a plan in place that made sure that we could use the Canada Summers Job Program, but make it year-round. Invest in a green climate core program, the care economy, in trades, in careers that young people can start on. Put a bursary in place, a student grant to help folks with an apprenticeship, or starting their university or their college career. I think that would be a great solution to get young people working.
Anyone disagree? Ms. Johnston.
Maybe just not necessarily disagree, but go one step further. I think we need free post-secondary education. This has been a goal, something I've been trying to champion for probably about 20 years since I was a part of the student movement. We have to have free post-secondary education. We have an insane amount of pressure on our economy because we don't have people to fill the jobs that we want to fill. And students can't go into post-secondary education and then graduate with a mountain of debt and then try to survive in the world that we have today. So free post-secondary education would provide that pathway for young people to go into the professions that they want to go into and not just what they have to go into due to the pressures of the cost of living.
Carl, we all have great solutions, and you're going to hear a lot of them tonight. They all cost money. And we face this question of like, how are you going to pay for it? I just want to remind everyone that we live in a society that is awash in wealth. Big banks in Canada made $50 billion last year. Big oil made $40 billion just a few years before that. We need a government that has the courage to fight on behalf of all of us and go and get the money where it is. So just as important as the public options, and we're in a period of market failure, we need the government to step up and step in. We also need a 1% on the 1%. We're proposing a wealth tax of 1% on the 1%, just that little bit, which Galen Weston is not even going to notice a rounding error on his household budget, could generate $25 to $40 billion a year. We need to go get that money and redistribute it in the form of universal public services for everyone.
And Mr. Ashton wants to jump in, and Mr. McQuail is going to follow.
Yeah, you bet. So, look, cost of living is ridiculous in this country. I got a 21-year-old daughter living at home right now. Madison's her name. And she'll never be able to move out, which is fine. I love her dearly, but, you know. But what we're looking at is we're looking at houses that are unaffordable, rents that are unaffordable. And then you compound that with the price of food. That's why an NDP led by me would be pushing caps on grocery prices. We have to triple the amount of houses that we build in this country. Public houses, co-op style. Because that's the only way we're going to make life affordable for young people, as well as people my age. We also have to look at the Bank of Canada. See, the Bank of Canada has a single mandate right now, and that's to lower inflation. But who cares about a low inflation rate if we have no jobs? So the second point that we're going to be making the Bank of Canada look at is looking at jobs, a promise for every working Canadian to have a job. Those are the two promises that we're going to make sure that the Bank of Canada leans on to help deal with the affordability crisis in this country.
Well, Carl, we have to help people understand the obscene discrepancy of wealth in our society. And if I told you you had 1 million seconds to live, you'd have 11 days. But if I told you you had 1 billion seconds to live, you'd have 31 years. And if I looked at how people are living on the street in Ottawa when we're at the CLC forum, they don't have any seconds to live. So, yes, we need a fair tax system. We need to go after the offshore tax havens. I think we need a much more progressive income tax as well as a more significantly progressive wealth tax. We've been in a society where the economists and the elites of society have really built a very effective wealth accumulating system or a concentrating system. We need to be talking about how we create a distributive economy where the wealth that's created by the 99% actually gets to stay with most of them and doesn't just get sucked up to the center.
Tony, that's exactly why we have to talk about the role of the government and the public sector and public ownership. We have a situation where Carney's only idea is to give our money to corporations to hope that the market somehow fixes the problem. That's what his big new housing agency and housing plan is all about. Right now, we have housing starts slowing down and construction workers being laid off. The market is failing us on every front, and that's why the government has to pick up the ball and put those construction workers back to work with public construction companies and a public housing developer. We cannot expect the market to solve these problems.
I mean, speaking of billions of dollars readily available, we can stop funding fossil fuel industries. We can take that $18 billion back and actually put it into good public programs. We can put it into healthcare. We can change what our country looks like if we stop providing grants to major profiteering industries. It would change the way our country functions from every level. And just a quick note here, we just saw a Liberal quit today because Mark Carney decided to sign an MOU with Alberta to push a pipeline through my province of BC. And that will never happen under my watch, ever.
Well said, Tanille.
Yeah. And the thing about, well, the pipelines, I wish we could get a refund on the pipeline the Liberal government bought last time. I mean, I had a liberal saying, you know, we're going to use the money we make on this pipeline and use it to fight climate change. I said, that's like having a drug dealer saying, we're going to sell this dope and start a rehab program. Like, it is just insane where we are sending our expenditures. And the idea that a liquefied natural gas terminal, a pipeline, and more mines are going to create a nation-building project when what we need is investment in what people need across this nation is just ridiculous. And I mean, we have the ideas for what to do, but to do it, we have to get into government.
All right, we have about 90 seconds left, so Ms. McPherson and then Mr. Ashton.
Thank you. And you know, one of the big nation-building projects we could be investing in is investing in housing, investing in healthcare. You know, healthcare is a nation-building project. And when I see what Danielle Smith is doing in the province of Alberta to fundamentally change the direction of healthcare in this country, to privatize our system, to take away the single-payer system that so many Canadians cherish and depend upon, that's a project we should be fighting for, is our healthcare system, our public, universal, single-payer healthcare system.
Mr. Ashton, you have the last word on this topic.
Les gens sont tannés, et moi aussi.
You're supposed to answer in English on this one.
Oh, my apologies. Figured I'd slip
Carl,
that
you're
one in.
supposed to reward him for this effort.
I know, I should give him bonus points, right?
So look, if we want change, serious change to happen in this country, we have to vote for the party of change. The Conservatives and the Liberals, every time each one of them are in power, they say, we're the party of change, vote for us. They're not the change. They're one and the same. We can see how Carney is running the country right now. I wouldn't even classify him as a small C Conservative. That guy's a bigger C than Mulrooney was. We must vote NDP, NPD, for change in this country. That's what we have to do, so we can take these plans that we're putting forward and put them together to make life better for Canadians.
Merci beaucoup, M. Ashton. On va passer maintenant en français puisque ça vous semble vous intriguer, vous intéresser. On va parler maintenant de la justice autochtone et de la réconciliation. C'est un vaste sujet, bien sûr, et on sait que les néo-démocrates ont beaucoup travaillé sur ces dossiers dans le passé. On peut penser à Ed Broadbent, notamment, le travail qu'il a fait à l'époque pour enchasser les droits ancestraux des peuples autochtones dans la Charte des droits et libertés, dans l'article 35. On a eu un budget Carney là, qui a coupé dans les services, qui a coupé dans les programmes destinés aux Autochtones, notamment. On peut penser à la fameuse loi sur l'unité de l'économie canadienne qui pourrait nier les droits des peuples autochtones et Premières Nations de pouvoir avoir une décision, une influence sur des projets majeurs. Alors, je vais poser la question, on va commencer avec Mme Johnston. Quelle est la façon de travailler pour le gouvernement fédéral pour atteindre ce fameux objectif de réconciliation et justice pour les peuples autochtones?
Arrêtons le paternalisme envers les Premières Nations. La réconciliation, c'est agir et on doit garantir l'accès à l'eau potable à Premières Nations.
Merci. Monsieur Lewis, je vous lance la question à votre tour. La réconciliation, c'est un vaste chantier. Qu'est-ce que le gouvernement fédéral devrait faire?
Clairement, sous Carney, la réconciliation recule. La loi C5, qui accélère les projets, ignore les droits autochtones inscrits dans la loi et se moque de consentement libre et éclairé. La relation de nation à nation, c'est aussi la vie quotidienne et retrouver chaque femme et fille autochtone disparue, résoudre la crise du logement et offrir un transport public sécuritaire et gratuit entre communautés et villes sur chaque route des larmes du pays. C'est une attente de justice envers les peuples autochtones.
Merci, M. Lewis. Mme McPherson, je vous pose à votre tour la question. Qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire pour commencer la réconciliation?
C'est clair. Le chemin est déjà tracé. Il se trouve dans les appels à l'action de la Commission de vérité et de réconciliation et dans les appels à la justice pour les femmes et les filles autochtones disparues et assassinées. Seulement, le NPD est concrètement engagé envers la vraie réconciliation. Par exemple, pour les logements, on doit s'assurer que les solutions de logement soient culturellement adaptées et durables.
Merci, Mme McPherson. Monsieur McQuail, quelle est votre vision, vous, pour faire progresser la réconciliation?
Abroger le projet de loi 600 et mettre en œuvre de la recommandation essentielle du rapport de la Commission et Vérité et Réconciliation.
Très bien. Monsieur Ashton, à votre tour maintenant sur cette question de réconciliation et ce que devrait faire le gouvernement fédéral.
Oui, merci. C'est important pour moi. Travailler d'égal à égal, toujours respecter les droits des Autochtones, toujours respecter les droits au consentement libre, préalable et éclairé, investir dans les infrastructures des communautés autochtones, mettre en place tous les appels à la justice et à l'action des commissions publiques.
Alors voilà, c'est un vaste projet, c'est un vaste chantier. On a parlé du rapport de la Commission, bien sûr. Alors, c'est maintenant le temps pour vous de débattre entre vous de cette question de la réconciliation. Qui veut commencer? Monsieur Lewis, peut-être.
Il faut dire que pendant que le gouvernement Carney recule, le leadership sur cette fiche des droits des Autochtones, c'est avec le NPD. I'm thinking of Leah Gazan and of Lori Idlout leading the charge on C5. Leah Gazan's bill for the red dress alert, as we are now into the 16 days of activism leading on gender-based violence, leading up to December 10th. All of this talk of nation-building projects that has consumed the oxygen of our political conversation in Canada, they're big, manly things with huge work camps entailed in remote areas. The impacts on Indigenous women and girls are intense, are horrifying. And we have activists in our party, these incredible leaders like Lori and Leah, who have been leading and talking about the importance of funding shelters, of funding services, of the frontline services in communities and in Indigenous communities. And I want to say again in English that the notion that public transportation, housing, water, roads, these fundamental things are solutions for the crises in Indigenous communities cannot be lost track of when we get into the conversations about law and abstract principles like reconciliation.
D'accord. Je rappelle que le débat se déroule en français, mais le débat ouvert peut se dérouler en anglais. J'ai été un peu sévère avec M. Ashton tout à l'heure lorsqu'il est tenté de parler français, je m'en excuse. Mme McPherson puis Mme Johnston par la suite.
Merci beaucoup. Et c'est clairement, personne ne peut construire là-bas sans l'accord des Premières Nations. C'est clair. Et par exemple, chaque projet national, le gouvernement proposes n'arrivera pas par l'accord de la Première Nation. Et les Premières Nations sont les gardiens du territoire. Et c'est nécessaire pour chaque projet à l'accord de les personnes autochtones. C'est très important. Pour moi, c'est pourquoi C5, la loi C5, c'est très terrible.
Mme Johnston.
Yeah, thank you. We need to stop imposing our ideas on nations. Nations have tons of shovel-ready projects that can not only allow our economy to thrive, but create hundreds of thousands of jobs and arguably help save our planet. We need to enable our nations in a way with our parties so that we're seeing them as the governments that they are. We are not opening a pathway so that our nations can contribute in our party in a way that's meaningful, true, honest, and supported, and we need to do that work. We need to close the infrastructure gap. If we close the infrastructure gap, that alone is going to bring such an amazing economy through Canada. But we're not doing it. We're approaching nations with projects that we think are best for them versus sitting down and saying, what do you have on your books? What are you ready to go with? And let's partner on that and let's bring that forward. Our nations are a huge asset in this country and we don't use them as that asset.
M. McQuail, je vous vois hocher de la tête. Là. Vous êtes d'accord?
Well, my French isn't good enough to address this, but I was at a conference in October that included Indigenous representatives talking about the things that they would like to do in terms of agriculture in their communities, environment, housing. As we need to do across Canada, we need to talk to people in their communities, find out the context of their needs and what they think could solve their problems. I'm a farmer. I'm a black wire and bale twine kind of guy, and fixing problems and dealing with things is what I do daily on my farm. It's what people do on their own communities. The federal government could be helping and supporting communities, both Indigenous and others across the country, as a way of building nation and dealing with the infrastructure they need, the way they need to create greater food security, the way they need to create housing. So those are the things that I think a federal government could be doing if it truly wanted to build nations, and that it would be beneficial to our Indigenous communities across the country.
Il
Allez-y.
faut se souvenir que la manchette d'aujourd'hui, cette pipeline sale, l'entente de pipeline sale, c'est un enjeu autochtone aussi. This is a revival, this MOU, of the Northern Gateway Pipeline, which was shut down on environmental and Indigenous rights concerns many years ago. And of course, there's no business proponent for it. And the pipeline itself may be a distraction. I hope we get a chance to talk about that later. But I remember the community, Indigenous community in Bella Bella, when the Northern Gateway Pipeline was proposed, and the environmental review panel went up to that community, and there were kids, 11, 12 years old, who found a new lease on life, who found reason and purpose and joy and collective struggle in resisting that pipeline. They made beautiful handmade signs, and they lined the little road from the small airport in Bella Bella when the review panel came to town. Do you remember this? And those folks from Ottawa went by in their cars. Someone got upset and banged a door or a window, and they were so afraid for their lives that they went back to the airport and they canceled the hearing. And those young people beat that pipeline, and they found a new lease on life and a new purpose in their communities, and we are going to ask them to fight it again. Completely unacceptable.
Monsieur Ashton, vous n'êtes pas encore intervenu là-dessus?
First off, I want to apologize to the moderator and to our francophone listeners here. Mon français isn't up to what it should be, but I am trying to learn. In regards to this, I don't have all the answers for working with or helping make life better for the Indigenous nations across this country, but what we all have to be willing to commit to is to listen, learn, and act. And it's with, like everybody said, with leaders like Leah and Lori and others, and Tanille. This is working together and understanding the issues and actually fixing them, not just playing lip service like liberals and conservatives do, actually doing justice to the injustices that have been done for a very long time.
Très bien. Il nous reste environ une minute. J'ai Mme McPherson et Mme Johnston qui voudraient intervenir.
Oui, très vite. J'accorde, I agree with my colleagues, mais c'est essentiel que les voix les personnes autochtones participent dans la table pour notre parti. C'est essentiel. Et c'est pourquoi c'est très bien quand j'ai vu le travail à Liagazan et Laura Idlut, et aussi Tanille Johnston. C'est important. Chaque député travaille pour la même chose, et c'est important. Chaque député travaille ensemble pour ce sujet.
Mme Johnston, le mot de la fin.
Thank you. Yeah, we need to turn our words into action. Something simple like making sure that there are ballot boxes in every nation's community across this country is something very simple that we can do as the NDP, and not just do it because we're hoping for a vote. Do it because it's the right thing to do.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. C'est ce qui conclut cette section sur la justice et la réconciliation avec les peuples autochtones. Nous allons maintenant passer à un sujet important, celui d'organiser le NPD et de gagner au Québec. Vous savez, il y a beaucoup de Québécois qui ont des opinions très progressistes. Hein? Ils l'ont démontré dans le passé, que ce soit sur les enjeux économiques ou les enjeux sociaux. Pourtant, le NPD, présentement, n'a qu'un seul siège. On l'a vu tout à l'heure, M. Boulris était avec nous. Un seul sur 78. Alors, la question est simple. Et pour la plupart d'entre vous, c'est la première fois qu'on pourra vous entendre là-dessus. Comment ça se fait qu'il y a juste un siège du NPD au Québec? Et comment vous allez faire pour changer ça? Comment vous allez faire pour gagner des sièges au Québec? On commence avec M. Lewis.
Il faut le dire, au Québec, la vie est de plus en plus dure. Les loyers explosent. L'université coûte trop cher. Puis on ne trouve pas des médecins, même que plusieurs quittent. Les Québécoises et Québécois ont soif de vraies solutions progressistes. Ils veulent de l'audace, des options publiques pour l'épicerie, le logement, les cellulaires. Ils veulent du clair. Plus de pipeline sale, ni ici, ni ailleurs. Et ils veulent de la solidarité plutôt que blâmer les plus vulnérables. Une voix attend le NPD ici au Québec. Il faut qu'on la prenne.
Merci, M. Lewis. Mme McPherson.
Notre parti n'a pas de chemin sans le Québec. Je veux remercier mon ami et mon collègue Alex Bouleris pour son travail au Québec et il ne doit pas être seul ici. Je sais que je dois continuer à travailler mon français, mais j'ai déjà fait de porte-à-porte et rencontré les membres partout dans la province. Il faut être présent. Notre parti est fort parce que nous sommes unis et proches et nos communautés. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Mme McPherson. C'est au tour de M. McQuail.
Si on va gagner pour les 99%, il faut travailler avec les autres partis qui ont une vision verte et progressiste. On doit comprendre et travailler ensemble, pas à faire concurrence, pour bâtir une coalition verte et progressive qui gagne.
Merci, M. McQuail. Je me tourne maintenant du côté de M. Ashton.
Merci. On a besoin du Québec pour gagner. Je comprends l'importance du Québec. Je dois mieux parler français pour connecter avec les Québécois. On doit gagner pas juste à Montréal. On doit parler aux gens des régions et aux travailleurs. On a besoin d'organisateurs et de ligne avec les syndicats. On doit être plus au Québec et on doit parler aux gens de ce qui est important pour eux.
Merci, M. Ashton. Mme Johnston, à vous.
Je respecte la langue française et le Québec. Je respecte la déclaration Sherbrooke et je vais apprendre le français parce que c'est important. Le NPD entre audacieux et prêt et mener les travailleurs à la victoire.
Merci, Mme Johnston. On va maintenant passer à la période de débat ouvert. Et bon, vous avez tous été d'accord que le Québec, c'est important, l'importance du français. Ouais. Allons plus loin que ça. Pourquoi vous, individuellement, vous êtes la personne pour faire gagner le NPD au Québec? Ouais. Qu'est-ce que vous amenez, Mme McPherson, d'abord?
Par exemple, pour moi, le route pour le NPD, c'est au Québec. C'est au Québec. Et c'est très important. Like, quand tu soutiens le vague orange 2011 à Jack Layton, c'est parce que Québec. Et pour moi, par exemple, je suis allée à Québec la semaine dernière. Parce que je veux rencontrer avec les activistes, les candidats à Québec. Et maintenant, c'est très important. Chaque député, chaque candidat visite chaque région au Québec. C'est important, nous avons ici.
Monsieur Lewis.
Nous sommes ici.
Oui, il faut revenir aux nouvelles d'aujourd'hui. Les Québécois veulent un champion d'action climatique. Ils ont déjà montré l'exemple. Vous avez déjà montré l'exemple ici. Des centaines de milliers de personnes dans la rue au cours des dernières années. Le Québec, c'est le cimetière des pipelines sales. Et si Carney et Legault n'écoutent pas, le message est clair. Ils ne vont pas ressusciter leur projet zombie ici au Québec. Et l'NPD a une opportunité incroyable. Nous devons reprendre le flambeau de leadership climatique ici au Québec. C'est très important ici, comme elle dit, et c'est fondamental. Notre parti a un avantage ici.
Madame Johnston, vous voulez intervenir? Monsieur Ashton par la suite.
On a besoin d'une érige à la Ruth Elaine Brasseau. We need a new energy that can come to Quebec. We need an energy that can unite our rural ridings. So often we hear from our rural ridings, our rural candidates, that they feel like they were left in the dust, that the strategy didn't complement them, that even the materials that they were receiving just didn't really align with the types of language that they need to use in their community to resonate with their people. And we need to leverage that. We need to leverage the expertise and the energy and the dedication and just honor that in our candidates in rural ridings so that we can deliver a message that resonates, so that we can work together, we can reroute our values, and we can win in rural ridings. But we need to listen to them. We need to hear their message, and we need to embed that in our strategy and carry it forward together.
Monsieur Ashton.
See, 2 months ago, I never saw myself standing in a leadership debate. So I guarantee you that I've been working on my en français, but I'm going to continue to bust my butt on that. But we're lucky because the language of the working class rises above any language in the world. And that's what we're going to be speaking to people in Quebec, to Quebecers. We're going to be working hard to fight for the working class in this province. But people go, what's the working class? The working class is everybody that does not own the means of production. And so we'll be looking to fight for people that are on disability, people that are on old age security. And these fights, they go above and beyond languages. But as I say that, I know that from now on, I'll be trying to squeak in a sentence or two in public debates and or public discussions after this debate in en français.
Merci, Monsieur Ashton. Monsieur McQuail.
Bâtir à partir de la base, renforcer nos associations de conscription locale, autant rurales qu'urbaines, mettre en place une coalition verte et progressiste, en élaborant une plateforme claire bien avant une élection, et en présentant un seul candidat ou une seule candidate par circonscription. Yeah. The joy of a multicultural, multilingual country is both a great challenge and a great opportunity of diversity. But the thing that I can bring to this, when you asked what can you bring, in the 1980s, our provincial party was organizing what they called pack rat drives, where they went in and did urban stuff, trying to get pre-authorized checking donations, monthly donations. They weren't interested in our little rural ridings, but we organized field mice campaigns with the few activists from several different ridings getting together and going out where polls had 10% support and saying, okay, can we find that 1 in 10 family and phone through the phone book and find the people and bring them in as members? And that's what we're going to have to do. Okay. But I also think we have to be realistic that at the moment, 55 of our ridings in Quebec have the same president. Friends, we have an awful lot of work to do.
Écoutez mes gars, il faut qu'on se parle. Si on veut faire un comeback au Québec, on a besoin de parler aux Québécois dans leur langue. Soyons honnêtes, actuellement, on n'est pas à la hauteur. Pour revenir en force, il faut qu'on développe une offre claire en français, axée sur les besoins des Québécois. Ça nous prendra un peu de temps, mais c'est nécessaire, on peut le faire, il faut le faire, on va le faire.
Madame McPherson et Madame Johnston par la suite.
C'est une autre chose. La reconstruction du parti passe par nos associations de circonscription. C'est vrai, oui. Et c'est nécessaire pour chaque candidat à identifier très tôt et pour le soutenir, l'association de circonscription, pour la collecte de fonds, pour préparer pour une campagne bien. C'est important. C'est le travail dans Québec. Dans Québec.
Yes, I hear what Avi, you're saying around the language barrier. I do believe we can absolutely rise above that, and part of that work of connecting with your local champions, the folks that live and breathe in community all day long, is just that. I don't believe that a language barrier should prevent us from being great. I think we can work across that. I think we can bridge that. I think everybody up here, I like to believe, that is dedicated to learning the French language. On a personal note, my adult life has been spent trying to hone my native language of Licola. We only have about maybe 6 to 10 fluent language speakers that speak Licola in my community of all our Licola speakers. So I really feel the commitment deep to language. As Quebec do, as Francophone folks do, and I really hope that we can bridge that gap. I'm truly deeply committed to access to French across our country in a super equitable way, because I know what it feels like to have your language threatened.
Carl, on pense toujours au Québec à notre ami Jack Layton. Je n'ai pas la moustache comme Jack, ni comme celle de mon ami Rob, mais je sais les Québécois sont soif de solutions progressistes, et un jour, peut-être, je serai à Tout le monde en parle. Et peut-être avec une moustache, beaucoup de travail ici aussi.
Très bien. Merci. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Merci. On va maintenant passer à une section de questions rapides, des questions éclairs. We will do now a rapid fire questions to try to get to know you a little better. And so let me ask you, and we're going to go from my left to my right. What is something that might surprise us about you, Mr. Ashton?
About me? I love classical music. That's how I do my work when I'm in the office.
Madam Johnston, same question. What could surprise us about you?
If you weren't paying attention super closely to the last election, I want to give a shout out to our team. We actually did very, very, very well, all things considering the result. We had over 26,000 people vote NDP, vote for me in North Island, Powell River, in a rural riding where it is very challenging to get to your ballot box. And it's something that I like to give thanks to every chance I get.
Mr. Lewis, something that could be surprising to us.
Well, I've never said this in public before, but I can sing every word of every song in the musical The Pajama Game, because it's about labor rights. But I actually have an allergy to musicals, and when they come on or someone starts singing them, I laugh hysterically until I cry. And so it's become a party game for people to put musicals on so they can watch me lose it.
All right, something surprising about you, Ms. McPherson.
Well, something surprising about me, I guess one of my very favorite things to do is bake. I'm a big baker, and I like to make protest cookies. It's one of my very favorite things. I've made anti-scab cookies. I've made cookies that are against bills that we don't like. I've made cookies for members of this government who are attacking the Rocky Mountains, trying to open up coal mining. So, protest cookies is a thing. Hit them with the sweetness.
Did you bring any for us?
Absolutely. They're in the back.
Mr. McQuail, something surprising about you.
Well, I'm a holistic management certified educator, and it was one of the early triple bottom lines: look after the land, look after the people, look after your income. And after we first took the course, we bought a horse-powered snow scoop, and we clean our lane on the snow belt of Huron County with a team of horses and a snow scoop.
Très bien. Merci beaucoup pour ces réponses. Intéressant. On va passer à la deuxième question maintenant. À part la ville où vous vivez, quelle est votre ville préférée? Monsieur McQuail.
Goderich, Ontario.
OK. Miss McPherson.
Well, come on. Le Montréal.
Ah.
C'est nécessaire. Et aussi, c'est une très belle ville et j'adore la ville de Montréal. C'est vraiment.
Très bien. Donc, on tente d'amadouer les citoyens d'ici. Monsieur Lewis,
Toronto, Vancouver, Ville de Québec.
dans l'ordre.
tous les trois.
Très bien. Madame Johnston, votre ville préférée à part votre communauté?
It doesn't qualify as a city because it's too small, but the true west coast of Vancouver Island is Tofino, and it's beautiful.
Très bien. Monsieur Ashton, votre ville préférée?
It's going to be Montréal because of the strong débardeurs and the checkers in this community who fight for the rights of workers.
C'est vrai que les débardeurs ici sont bien connus pour leur enthousiasme, c'est certain. Très bien. Parlant de travailleurs et travailleuses, on va passer à une section sur le rôle, justement, des travailleurs, des travailleuses, du mouvement syndical en général au sein du NPD. On le sait, là, les syndicats ont joué un rôle important dans la création même du NPD en 1961, Congrès du travail du Canada qui était impliqué. Et d'ailleurs, sous le gouvernement précédent, le NPD a réussi à faire des gains en matière de droit du travail. On peut penser à la loi anti-SCAB, on peut penser au congé de 2 semaines, au congé de maladie de 2 semaines pour les travailleurs, travailleuses sous juridiction fédérale. Malgré ça, et malgré toute l'histoire, toute l'historique qu'a le mouvement syndical avec le NPD, bien, lors des dernières élections, il y a beaucoup d'autres partis qui ont approché les travailleurs, les travailleuses, même certains syndicats, et qui les ont convaincus de voter pour eux plutôt que de voter pour le NPD. Alors, qu'est-ce que vous allez faire pour tenter de convaincre, de ramener ces gens-là au bercail? On va commencer avec Mme McPherson.
Merci beaucoup. Et je suis très fière pour le NPD, pour le anti-SCAB legislation. Et, again, M. Bouleris, le crédit pour le travailleur. Et aussi, les travailleurs ont construit ces partis et ils doivent rester au cours de ce parti. Le NPD a toujours été leur réponse et le NPD doit continuer à l'être. C'est notre responsabilité. Je suis fière de l'histoire du parti pour défendre les droits des travailleurs et protéger chaque emploi. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Mme McPherson. Monsieur McQuail, sur le rôle des travailleurs et des syndicats dans le NPD.
Il faut ouvrir grand nos bras quand on parle de travailleurs et de travailleurs. On parle avec et pour la 99%. Certains sont syndiqués, des autres ne le sont pas. Certains ont un salaire, d'autres non. Il faut reconnaître le travail non rémunéré dans la famille et dans la communauté. We need to speak for workers for all people.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Il faut limiter l'intelligence artificielle à cause de ses impacts sur l'environnement, l'emploi et la guerre. Il faut appeler l'appel mondial pour la ligne rouge sur l'intelligence artificielle. Parce qu'avec une intelligence artificielle super intelligente, le film Matrix.
Merci, M. McQuail. Merci. M. Ashton, vous êtes vous-même un président de syndicat. Avez-vous la réponse? Comment on ramène les travailleurs syndiqués au sein du NPD pour les appuyer?
On doit retourner à nos racines. Ça veut dire écouter les travailleurs. Ils ont le mot à dire, tout le Canada gagne. Meilleur salaire, meilleures conditions, économie plus stable. Je vais battre pour faciliter l'accès aux syndicats, protéger les droits de grève, créer de bons emplois bien payés. C'est la clé d'un NPD qui gagne et d'un Canada plus juste.
Merci, M. Ashton. M. Lewis, est-ce qu'il y a une façon de ramener ces électeurs là, qui viennent du monde ouvrier vers le NPD?
C'est ça. À l'origine, on est une alliance entre travailleurs, fermiers et socialistes, formée en temps de crise économique et la montée fasciste. L'histoire se répète, mais la classe ouvrière a changé. Aujourd'hui, ils font du travail à la demande. On les trouve dans nos boutiques, nos hôpitaux, nos centres d'appel. Aux côtés du mouvement syndical, le cœur de notre parti, c'est ça que la classe ouvrière majoritaire au Canada. Ces travailleurs sont écrasés par le coût de la vie. Ce sont eux qui vont le plus bénéficier de nos solutions.
Très bien, M. Lewis. Madame Johnston.
Je respecte les syndicats de Québec et du Canada. On doit les écouter. On a besoin de plus de syndicats tous les secteurs. Et on doit améliorer la vie des travailleurs et des travailleuses partout.
Très bien. On va maintenant passer à la section ouverte de ce débat sur le rôle des syndicats au sein du NPD, sur la façon de ramener ses électeurs. Quand on pense à la dernière élection, le Parti conservateur est allé chercher beaucoup d'appui syndical. Comment ça se fait? Comment ça se fait que le message conservateur passe, mais pas celui du NPD? Qui veut commencer? Madame McPherson, M. Ashton par la suite.
Oui, c'est une essentielle question parce que quand nous parlons avec les travailleurs et travailleuses, c'est important, nous parlons le sujet important, les coûts de vie, l'emploi, le protéger de l'emploi et aussi pour le logement. Pour chaque travailleur dans ce pays, le crise de logement, c'est très important. La crise de coût de vie, c'est très important. Et c'est important. Nous parlons très simple, très clair et avec les disciplines.
Monsieur Ashton, puis Monsieur McQuail.
You see, our party needs to elect a leader that actually comes from the working class, that has led workers for a generation. That person is me. Because we need to defend against somebody like Pierre Poilievre, who cosplays as a worker, who doesn't even own a pair of work boots like the pair I'm wearing tonight. A liberal government that does nothing but hurt workers by sending them back to work, and they actually intentionally fight for employers. We need to get back to our rural roots, as MP Gorjan does. We have to fight like heck to get rid of Section 107, as per Leah Gazan. And like our friend MP McPherson just said, MP Bellarice helped bring in anti-scab legislation. We must get back to a party. We must stand up for the workers in this country, both unionized and non-union. People that can't go to work for whatever reason, this party must get back to its roots and fight like hell for every worker in this country and defend against the ruling class that wish to rip us apart and divide us. I'll stop there and share the time.
All right, Mr. McQuail, then Ms. Johnston and Mr. Lewis.
Mes amis, if the unions and their members don't believe we can win and don't believe we can deliver on the promises that we're making or the ideas that we have, they will vote strategically, and they behave strategically. And that is what has happened. And that is what will continue to happen as long as we play by the rules of the first-past-the-post system. It's kept the elites in power since before Confederation, and certainly after working men and women got the vote after the First World War. It's kept the United Farmers, the Independent Labor, the CCF, and now the NDP and the Green Party from getting their fair share of representation. And over time, as that keeps happening, the people who should be supporting us and who would like to see what we're talking about vote for other parties, they hold their nose, and each time they do that, they make the spread between the NDP and the Liberals or the Conservatives 2 votes instead of 1, because they take 1 away from us and give it to somebody else, or they just stop voting. And that is a reality that if we don't deal with it, none of what you're hearing today is going to get very far. And if we don't deal with that reality. So I'd like to hear from the other candidates where they stand on putting forward a strong plan or system for dealing with first past the post so it doesn't keep defeating us, and where they would stand if they were in a minority position or a government position in bringing in proportional representation.
Merci, M. McQuail. On verra si les candidats veulent répondre à votre question. On va commencer par Mme Johnston, M. Lewis ensuite et Mme McPherson.
100%, Tony. Proportional representation has to get into our government. Our workers, we need to show back up for workers. I don't feel we were present enough. I don't think we've invested enough in that relationship. We need to listen and then act. We need to protect our workers in every way we can. We should be championing card checking as a way to hopefully bring forward stronger unions, more unions. We should be looking at ways to keep our workers safe through things like supporting a nurse-to-patient ratio across the country, something that BC is implementing right now, but something that nationwide we should not have nurses that are overworked and pushed into very dangerous situations, all while they're just trying to care for Canadians across the country. So absolutely, we need to show up, we need to listen, and then we need to act.
Mr. Lewis.
En cours de la campagne, j'ai visité une usine à Winnipeg qui s'appelle New Flyer. Et je pensais que j'ai vu l'avenir là. On fabrique là des autobus de tout type, mais spécialement, particulièrement des électriques. And in the New Flyer bus plant in Winnipeg, the feeling was so strong on the floor. I was there with the Unifor rep, Mike, who took me around. And here's what they were doing. They were taking Canadian steel in one side of the factory. They were making it into bus parts. So it's much harder for the business to flee if it's ever bought by a foreign owner, because they make the parts and then on the other side of the factory, they assemble the buses. They have batteries from Quebec. They're putting those buses out to municipalities across the land. This is using Canadian materials. It's a tariff-proof business. It's hiring local workers. They have $13.5 billion worth of orders waiting. And on the topic of public ownership and the federal government's role, there's a piece of federal land across the street that would be ideal for an expansion of the factory. But the feeling on the floor was so strong, those workers so proud of actually being part of something bigger than ourselves, way more than all that elbows up stuff. I felt that I saw Canadian workers building the future, and with public ownership, we can solve all those problems and slash our emissions at the same time.
Merci, M. Lewis. Il nous reste un peu moins de 2 minutes. Là, Mme McPherson et M. Ashton pour conclure.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Et je voudrais parler de mon projet de loi. Mon projet de loi que annuler le CLAC. Annuler le CLAC et pour autres personnes, le CLAC et ses syndicats d'entreprise, c'est mauvais pour tous les travailleurs dans le pays. Et c'est une importante étape pour les protéger et les droits des travailleurs maintenant dans ce pays.
M. Ashton?
In my time as a representative of my union, I've seen far too many workers killed on the job, and I've seen far too many workers injured on the job. The United Steelworkers pushed for a bill called the Westray Law, which prosecuted employers when they killed their workers. It's been what? One company that's actually had somebody go to jail, maybe two. These employers, they know the labor code is written to work for them. The labor code is not written for laborers, for workers. So we have to fix the labor code so that workers can go to work and actually feel comfortable that they're going to come home alive. That's what we have to do as this party. If we want workers to come and join our party, to stand with us shoulder to change this country, then we must be ready to fight like heck to help them, to make sure that they have a safe working environment. Because right now, the way the laws are written, it's like going to a casino.
C'est tout le temps qu'on avait pour cette section. Merci beaucoup. On va passer maintenant à la 5e section, the NDP's path forward. So, New Democrats have formed government in over half the provinces. They've formed government in the Yukon, but they've never done so at the federal level. It's never happened. There's a debate in the party about why this hasn't happened. This is your chance to address this. But let me ask you this. Have you learned any lessons from our provincial wings, from the provincial wings of the party that have formed government? Or do you believe that paying the conscience of Parliament is good enough? I'm going to start with Mr. McQuail.
I got involved in 1980 because I wanted to change the way we treated each other and the way we treated the planet. I didn't get involved in politics to become a politician. I wanted to change what we did as a society. And I've been watching for 45 years, and I don't think we're making very good progress, either as a society or as a political party. Which is why what I'm saying is we have to figure out how to beat first past the post. And we also have to do what we've done in the past, which is build at the local riding level, figure out how to make membership work the best way a riding can raise money by figuring out a fair way of sharing money between the federal party, the provincial wings, and the local riding associations. And we've got to educate and communicate.
Thank you, Mr. McQuail. Mr. Ashton, party of power or conscience of parliament?
Party of power, baby. We got to bring back this party to its roots. We got to be a voice for the working class, a voice for everyday working Canadians. We got to win back the voters that we lost, the working class wannabes, and show all voters that we can win. We got to go from the shop floor to the union hall. We got to earn people's trust back through our actions, not by what we're saying. We got to stop talking at people, but with people. We're going to build this party up by listening, organizing, and standing together. We're going to be a bottom-up movement, and we're going to be representing the voices of the people. We're not going to be speaking for them, we're going to be speaking with them.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Madame Johnston.
It's not good enough to not be a majority. We haven't seen the progress in our country because we haven't had enough leverage to make the changes in Canada that we need to have an inclusive Canada. Something that was inspirational that was happening in another province is actually the student movement that is completely left out of all of this. There is a phenomenal relationship, especially between the U of T NDP club and their provincial counterparts in the NDP. They do phenomenal work together. The students come out in 30 and 40 folks to come and help door knock in provincial elections. We're not seeing that turnout federally. That relationship is not there, and that has to change. We have to leverage our students that are active and passionate and want to do this work with us.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
Carl, I'll address your false dichotomy in debate. The path forward for the NDP is to stay laser-focused on the everyday emergency of just trying to get by. Wealth taxes and public options are popular ideas. They're solutions for the 99%. Ideas like this won't just win us back voters, they'll bring in people who don't vote at all. We win by offering hope in hard times. Inside the party, we need to put members back in the driver's seat. These big solutions can only be won by big organizing. Riding associations should be 343 organizing hubs across the country. We show up for community struggles every single day, so communities show up for us at election time. This is how our comeback begins.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ms. McPherson.
Listen, we are stronger when we work together. We are stronger when we are united across the country and when we work with the provincial parties. I think that's very, very important. You know, we also need to take steps to support riding associations across this country so that they can nominate candidates sooner, so that they can raise the funds that they need to raise to run a strong campaign. You know, we've done that in my riding. We've done that in Alberta, and I know how to win. I know how to beat Conservatives, and I am excited, and I am willing, and I am eager to take the lessons that I have learned winning the strongest seat in the NDP and use those lessons across the country.
Thank you. We will now open the debate to all of you. You all come from a province that has had a government. You've had an NDP government in your provinces. So what have you learned? Is there something you've learned from your provincial NDP government? Mr. McQuail wants to start.
If you win government, don't go home and leave the work to the people you elected. Get out in the street the next day and demand more so that the right can't shift the discussion away from the goals of the NDP. That's what I learned in Ontario in 1990. But I also learned that if you work with people as you develop policies and programs, because I was the executive assistant to the Minister of Agriculture, and we developed an environmental farm plan with the farm community, and also the farm business registration plan, which actually moves money to farm organizations so they can bring forward policy and have
Tony,
good
we only
debate.
got 8 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, but you've got 7 more, and there are only 4 more of you. Be patient, Avi. I got to speak in English. You got French to work with. So let me make my point. If you work with the people, that you're bringing forward ideas for, they last, because those two programs that the NDP brought in back in 1990 are still there after successive Liberal and Conservative governments. We've got to work with people, we've got to work from the ground up, and if you're a government, don't get too high and mighty, and at least bring in proportional representation for your province.
All right, Mr. Lewis,
This
over to you.
dichotomy of electability versus big, bold ideas, it's a false one. Big, bold ideas that actually are big enough to solve the epic crises we face are how we win. They're how we've always won. When Tommy Douglas brought in Medicare, it was not popular. He had to go to war with doctors. Everybody told him it's impractical, it's too big. And now we have changed the life of generations of Canadians in our daily lives, in our skin, and people will never forget the contribution we made. Look at Wab Kinew. You're asking about provincial premiers. Ran an election where he promised to search the landfill. It was not a popular idea at the time. It's a time for moral clarity and straight talk. And Wab ran on that. The Conservatives ran a disgusting racist campaign, advertising campaign against him. He won the election. He searched the landfill. He brought justice to those families. That's the NDP tradition we need. Solutions as big as the crises we face and the courage to speak straight and honest about them.
Okay, I've got Ms. McPherson, then Mr. Ashton.
Listen, when we win, when we elect more New Democrats, we get help for people. We get help for Canadians. And for me, I think about Rachel Notley. I think about what she did in Alberta, where she was able to cut child poverty in half, where she was able to take such important steps. And you know, I have to say, when Rachel Notley stood with me and endorsed me at my launch, I was extraordinarily proud, because rebuilding the relationship between the federal NDP and the provincial NDP was a goal of mine from the time I was elected in 2019. You know, when we win, when New Democrats get elected, we make life better for Canadians, and that is so important. That's why we're running. That's why it's so important that we win.
Mr. Ashton, then Ms. Johnston, and then Mr. McQuail wants to come back.
What I've learned from NDP governments in this country, or even NDP governments in waiting in this country, is we have to fight against the language of hate. Because if you look at the right wing of this country and the right wing of the United States, and I mean the far right wing, is they tell us that we have to hate our neighbor. They tell us if you're angry and your life is tough and you're not getting by, it's because of your neighbor. That's so not right, and it's so not true. You see, if you look at what Jack did, he led with hope, love, justice, and he lifted our party up. And unfortunately, his life was cut too short, or we would have formed government in this country. And if you look what they're doing in Manitoba and BC, what they did in Alberta, when the NDP takes power, they show people that it's okay to love each other, that it's okay to give somebody a hand up. That's what we have to do with workers today, is we have to show them a path forward, one that isn't filled with hate and bigotry and misogyny, a path forward but helping your neighbor and not holding them down.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Ms. Johnston.
Yeah, having an NDP government means that we get to push back when there's a racist items being tabled in the House of Commons, in Parliament. We just went through a horrific situation in BC where we had a party table legislation that looked to ban the use of any 2S LGBTQIA flag being flown. And it was disgusting. I am so proud that our NDP government made sure that bill did not pass. We're not going to see that enacted. It's not going to go any further. And I'm proud that we have a leader that is going full on against the pipeline threat that appears to be coming strong and hard from Alberta and from the Liberal Party, from Mark Carney. But we must always, always, always stay connected to the grassroots. You are our party. The people are the party. We are just conduits to bring our message forward. The people need to feel and hear themselves in this party because they are what's driving us forward.
Thank you. Mr. McQuail, you want to add something?
Yes. That issue of staying connected to our roots and the communities. And one of the things that gives me hope at a time when I can feel very despairing is what I know about the people who are working in their communities on things that relate to the environment or to energy. And I think we have to be sure that we are talking strongly to them about how they can help build a future they want for their children and their grandchildren. That's part of why I'm here. But I think as part of that, we need to be brave enough to challenge the capitalist, corporate, consumerist ideology that I've watched for 45 years take us down a path of growth. Growth that makes the rich richer, makes the earth poorer, and makes communities have less and less that they can work on and share. So we have to also talk about degrowth, degrowing a cancerous economic theory and system, and figuring out how we can do a better job of sharing and caring for each other by doing less materially, both energy and resources.
Carl, we haven't talked enough about what happened today. We're talking about the path back for the party. This is a moment where only the NDP would say things about this deal that Carney has signed with Danielle Smith, throwing out all the climate legislation, the meager progress the Liberals had made. This is the sellout of the century. And as people look into this deal, they're going to see that the pipeline might just be a distraction. I do have a message for you in Ottawa, Prime Minister Carney. This pipeline will not be built, not in BC, not here in Quebec, not anywhere. It is not going to happen. But more than that, this sellout of the century is about AI. It's about massive, dirty electricity to power AI. It's going to reconfigure the electricity system of the Western provinces to feed oil and gas instead of the power lines, not pipelines, that we need to get off oil and gas once and for all. Our path back as a federal party, and we will have to navigate with love and care relationships with the provincial sections. Our path back lies through climate leadership, climate clarity, the courage to tell the truth, and to say we have to get off all fossil fuels, including LNG, as soon as possible. We need to build those jobs first, though, because transition is the last word a worker hears before they get screwed. So on an urgency basis, on an emergency basis, we need to be building, under public ownership, clean jobs in renewable energy, in an electric bus revolution, so that those jobs are waiting for oil and gas workers, because workers can't transition to a promise or an idea. The jobs need to be waiting.
Workers are the epicenter of our economy, and we have to treat them like that.
Very well. Ça termine ce 5e segment de ce débat. Nous avons une autre ronde de questions éclairs. We have another round of rapid fire questions. Alors, on va commencer encore une fois de ma gauche vers ma droite et on reviendra pour la seconde question. Rob Ashton, quel a été votre premier emploi?
My first job, I worked at
En
a place
français, s'il
called...
vous plaît.
Oh, Jesus. Je travaillais Liquidation World.
Donc, dans un endroit où on faisait des liquidations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say yeah, Rob.
Yeah.
Oui.
Thank you very much. Merci. Tanille Johnston, votre premier emploi?
J'ai travaillé à Dairy Queen.
Oh! Délicieux. Monsieur Lewis.
J'ai vendu les hot dogs dans la rue. C'est vrai.
Ah oui?
Oui, c'est ça.
Madame McPherson, votre premier emploi?
Oui, je suis enseignée pour le nager, pour les enfants.
La natation?
Natation, oui, merci beaucoup.
D'accord. Monsieur McQuail, quel a été votre premier emploi?
Quel âge? 4 ans, un grand pour un arboriste.
Un arboriste. Ah bon? Intéressant, intéressant. All right, last rapid fire question. Mr. McQuail, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Well, in some ways, it was advice from a team of horses I was trying to work with, and that was that anger doesn't get you anywhere. Because if you get pissed off at horses, they just get nervous and unhappy, and things go really badly. So learning to work with horses helped me to work better with others and get a better control. Because I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, father, and he bottled anger, and then it came out. So, yeah, horses maybe taught me some of the best lessons in my life.
Ms. McPherson, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Well, I think about being a member of Parliament, and I think about Charlie Angus, and he used to sit right in front of me in the Parliament. And I remember him telling me one day that you can waste a lot of time writing a speech, or you can spend that time doing things that are more fun. So you got to be brave, you got to put yourself out there, you got to be willing to go for it. And I think about Charlie when I think about things like this debate this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, what is the best advice you've ever received?
When I was in Argentina 20 years ago making my first documentary film, The Take, about workers taking over their factories and running them as democratic cooperatives, this is advice that they gave us that I want to share with the workers at the Cami plant in Ingersoll, where the company has gone back to the United States and they've said if they go for the machines, they will occupy the plant. And I remember sleeping on the floor of factories defending the machines. So what the workers in Argentina say is occupy, resist, and produce. Best advice ever.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Madam Johnston, what is the best advice you've ever received?
So there's an interesting part of our culture where you don't receive a name until you're about 10 months old. And so the name that was given to me was La Colloqua, which loosely translates to speaks loud or voice is heard. And so I definitely feel like that is advice that was given to me very young in age, is to say the things. Because there's someone out there that maybe isn't going to say them and wants to hear them or needs you to say them. So I think that's something that I carry very near and dear. And then the other thing that kind of made me laugh when you asked that question is the immediate image that came into my brain was actually of Disney's Aladdin, which is a controversial movie. But the genie turns into a little bee and he whispers, "Be yourself." And that's something that I hear all the time, is to keep it genuine and be yourself.
Thank you. Mr. Ashton, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Be kind to people, because you just never know what's actually happening in their lives. So always try to be kind.
Thank you. I'm going to add a question of my own because we have a few minutes left before we go to the closing statement. Oui, vous allez souffrir encore un peu,
Okay.
Mais je vais poser la question en anglais. Why do you want to be Prime Minister of Canada in 15 seconds or less? Mr. Ashton.
To provide better lives for people of this country, and to stop the lying and the quite frankly BS that comes out of Ottawa from every party but the NDP.
Madam Johnston.
I'm here to bring the NDP a big win in the next election. If we win big in the next election, and then we win even bigger after that, and we're staring Prime Minister in the face, and I'm still your person, let's do it. But I'm here to nation build. I'm here to bring a collective that's strong and fierce and is going to win victory in the next election so that NDP can take a meaningful step into that majority position.
Mr. Lewis, do you want to be Prime Minister of Canada?
We are posed at the brink of the most serious crises in human history. And in a country like Canada, awash in wealth, every single person deserves to live a dignified life with all of their needs met as we fight the rise of fascism, which is feeding on the soil of economic desperation. To be Prime Minister in this country and deliver those things would prevent unbelievable suffering that we're in for otherwise.
Ms. McPherson, why do you want to be Prime Minister of Canada?
I want to change the systems that are hurting Canadians. I want to change the systems that are making our country unjust, that are leading to greater inequality. And I think when you Democrats win, we change those systems. We make life better for Canadians. That's why I'm running to be the leader of the NDP.
Mr. McQuail, you're the last one. I'm asking the question. Why do you want to be Prime Minister of Canada?
Same reason I ran in 1980. I want to change how we treat each other, and I want to change how we treat the world. My 45 years of experience in politics and my over 50 years of experience as a farmer has told me that you can make change. One of the things I've worked on is developing a holistic goal for Canada that talks about the kind of things that we'd like in our quality of life and the kind of dreams we have for the future, based on my conversations with people that I've met and talked to and also worked with as a teacher. And we need a vision, we need a goal to bring people together, to bring our provincial and federal party together, to bring people to us. But we need that vision and we need to be able to work on it.
Thank you. Alors, le débat tire à sa fin. Nous allons terminer, bien sûr, avec les déclarations de clôture telles que vous avez été mandaté de les préparer. 45 secondes en français et nous commençons avec Tanille Johnston.
On a besoin du changement. On a besoin d'un chef qui peut énergiser et grandir notre parti et qui peut mener la victoire. Ensemble, on peut bâtir un parti solide. Ensemble, on entre fort. On peut entre audacieux. Merci beaucoup en solidarité.
Merci. Monsieur Ashton, à vous.
Merci. Vous l'avez entendu. Mon français, c'est pas parfait. Mais à deux, moi, j'aurais pas pensé être dans un débat en français. Le Québec et le français, c'est important pour moi. Je travaille fort. J'ai vu ramener le NPD à ses racines, un parti qui se bat pour les travailleurs, qui parle vrai et qui recule devant rien. C'est comme ça qu'on va gagner, pas juste à Montréal et dans la grande ville. Je pense que je suis le bon choix pour ça. Solidarité, les amis.
Merci, Monsieur Ashton. Monsieur McQuail, à vous.
Mes amis, nous avons énormément de travail à faire. Il faut reconstruire la NPD à partir de la base. Mais encore, plus important, nous devons bâtir une coalition progressiste verte. Il faut ouvrir grand les bras et accueillir les 50% des gens qui ne votent plus, qui ont décroché parce qu'ils ne croient plus au système politique. Il faut aussi tendre la main aux libéraux déçus. Aujourd'hui, Stéphane Gébaud et aux conservatifs inquiets. Mes amis, si on travaille ensemble, on est capable de bâtir un avenir lumineux, un avenir fier.
Merci, Monsieur McQuail. Monsieur Lewis.
On peut vivre dans une société fondée sur la solidarité, où le loyer est raisonnable, le ciel est libre de fumée et les soins de santé et le transport sont bien financés, fonctionnels et gratuits. Ce monde est possible, mais il faut le créer ensemble. C'est pour ça que je me présente comme chef du NPD, pour mettre l'espoir avant la peur, pour offrir des solutions aussi grandes que les crises qu'on vit, pour se battre pour un gouvernement qui cesse de servir l'argent et commence à servir les gens. Merci. Bonne soirée.
Merci, Monsieur Lewis. Madame McPherson.
Merci. Merci à tout le monde qui a écouté ce débat. Il est temps d'agir maintenant. J'ai l'expérience pour rebâtir le parti et gagner. Eh oui, on doit tous continuer à travailler sur notre français parce que notre route vers la vraie victoire passe par le Québec, par chaque communauté francophone, incluant la mienne. Le NPD doit redevenir le parti qui se tient debout pour les familles et qui livre des résultats. Je sais que nous pouvons y arriver et je suis prête à le faire dès maintenant.
Merci, Madame McPherson. Merci à tous, en fait. Rob Shaw, Tanille Johnston. Rob Shaw, c'est un autre gars, ça.
Autre province, Carl.
Rob Ashton, Tanille Johnston, Avi Lewis, Heather McPherson, Tony McQuail, merci beaucoup d'avoir participé à ce débat. C'est un exercice important. Ça n'a pas toujours été facile, mais je pense que vous avez tiré votre épingle du jeu à votre façon, tous et chacun. C'est un exercice important en démocratie et donc je vous remercie d'avoir participé à ce débat. Merci à tout le monde qui nous a écoutés à la maison, bien sûr. Merci d'avoir été avec nous pour ce débat, ce premier débat. I remind everyone there will be a second debate in February 2026 in the BC's Lower Mainland, and the NDP leader will be announced at the NDP convention in March in Winnipeg. Alors, je remercie bien sûr toute l'équipe technique, les techniciens, tous les gens qui ont participé à l'organisation de ce débat. Merci beaucoup d'avoir été là. C'est Carl Bélanger qui vous dit au revoir et à la prochaine.